Good morning, my Lords, Member of Parliament, members of the Legislative Assembly, aldermen, councillors and party members. It's a real delight and honour to be asked to speak to you today. My name is Dr. John Kyle. For those of you who don't know me, I grew up in East Belfast, trained in medicine at Queen's, spent most of my medical career as a GP in East Belfast, a role which I consider to be a great privilege. Working as a GP, I realised that my patients' well-being and welfare were hugely impacted by factors over which I, as a medical doctor, had no control. Factors such as poor quality of housing, unemployment, work that was unrewarding, poorly paid, social isolation, and of course, the political violence on our streets. So with a growing interest in community development and conflict transformation, I joined the Progressive Unionist Party in the year 2000. I was an admirer of David Irvine and of the work that he'd done within Loyalist communities. And following his death in 2007, I was co-opted onto Belfast City Council as a PUP representative, a role that I found both challenging and rewarding. However, like many Unionists, I saw Brexit and the Northern Ireland Protocol as extremely damaging to Northern Ireland. I was convinced that the approach taken by the Ulster Unionist Party, principled and strong opposition to the protocol, with a pragmatic determination to bring about change by political engagement and argument, was the only feasible option. So being unable to support the position that the PUP took, I subsequently resigned and joined the Ulster Unionist Party in 2022. I'm a member of the Victoria branch in East Belfast and the UUP nominee on the Education Authority Board. I'm very pleased to be following Councillor Pete Ray's excellent speech on Loyalist communities and the disconnect between unionism and loyalism. I'd like to pick up on that because this is an issue of major importance, not just for our party, but for the future of Northern Ireland. As we can see today, countries that are riven by division and social exclusion struggle to thrive and to succeed. The more cohesive and inclusive that Northern Ireland is, the more that we cooperate and work in partnership with others, the more Northern Ireland will prosper and people will thrive. However, in achieving social and economic progress, some people and some communities face much greater obstacles than others. Working class communities, while demonstrating great resilience, loyalty and pride in their community, face hardships and hazards which lead to a much greater sense of vulnerability. Furthermore, they have limited resources at their disposal to deal with the problems that they face. Politicians have a responsibility to tackle these issues. And what's more, it's in everyone's interest that we do. Otherwise, we will have generations of young people languishing in disadvantage and deprivation, suffering physical and mental health difficulties, failing to fulfill their potential, and unable to make a proper and fitting contribution to the future of Northern Ireland. Our party leader and Minister of Health, Mike Nesbitt, has highlighted the inequalities in health between the most and least deprived communities. And this is seen most starkly in the all-pervasive effects of poor mental health, an area for which he has long been a champion. With bad mental health, normal life feels as if you're running in treacle. Everything becomes more demanding and difficult, and what others might take in their stride can seem like an almost insurmountable hurdle. Unsurprisingly, given the multiple hardships facing disadvantaged communities, mental health problems are much more prevalent in those communities, and the coping strategies which people use to cope with their problems can themselves further damage their health. For example, the number of alcohol-related deaths is over 4.5 times greater in the most deprived areas compared to the least. And drug-related deaths are more than 6 times higher in the most deprived areas. In the US, these deaths are called deaths of despair and are linked to feelings of hopelessness and despair, not uncommon in many of our disadvantaged communities. Another growing problem is the use of vapes, particularly among young people. While it's illegal to sell a vape to someone under 18, nearly half of our final year secondary school students in Northern Ireland are vapers. 20% of 11 to 16-year-olds have used vapes at least once. Many use them regularly, and even pre-teen children are using them. Now, this may seem like a trivial matter, but believe me, it's not. Vapes or e-cigarettes contain nicotine and are a helpful tool in smoking cessation, but are often laced with harmful substances including cannabis and spice, a particularly potent synthetic form of cannabis. In the hands of young people, they are addictive, they damage their lungs, and they are damaging to the young, developing brain. The Assembly took steps to ban single-use disposable vapes, commonly used, they're environmentally damaging. But the tobacco companies who manufacture and market the vapes using bright colours and designs that appeal particularly to young people altered their products to evade the legislation. This is an issue that the UUP has been particularly vocal on, and we will press to ensure that our children and young people are protected from these damaging and addictive devices that will cause huge harm if left unlegislated for or unrestricted. Problem gambling is another addiction that has inflicted enormous damage on individuals, families, and communities. 3% of adults in Northern Ireland are considered to be problem gamblers. That figure is 3 times higher than in Scotland and the Republic of Ireland, and 4 times higher than in England. It equates to over 50,000 people here in Northern Ireland. Our Deputy Leader, Robbie Butler, Vice Chair of the All-Party Group on Reducing Gambling-Related Harm, that's quite a mouthful, Robbie, and Andy Allen, our Community Spokesperson, have done outstanding work pressing for updated gambling legislation in the era of online gambling, when all that's needed to make a bet is a smartphone. But legislation to regulate online gambling, to protect vulnerable young people through early recognition of problem behaviour, and to create a levy, an industry levy to provide gambling addiction services are still badly needed to address a growing problem. And disgracefully, to date, the only legislation passed has benefited the industry. Nothing has been done by the Minister for Communities, Gordon Lyons, to help people in gambling harm. It's destroying families and communities. These assaults on the mental health of our children and young people, which are particularly acute in disadvantaged communities, inevitably affect their schooling. We're all aware of the long tail of educational underachievement that exists in Northern Ireland, especially affecting boys from working class backgrounds. Excellent work has been done over the past couple of decades to address the problem. The Fair Start report in 2021 made many significant recommendations which have been producing encouraging signs of improvement. But we still have too many young men leaving formal education with no life direction and no career trajectory. Mental health difficulties contribute to this, but unemployment itself causes or compounds mental health difficulties. Meaningful work is in itself powerfully therapeutic. Historically, vocational courses and qualifications have been treated as Cinderella subjects. Our focus has been on academic achievement, and indeed many of our young people are among the UK's highest academic achievers. But many are gifted in other ways, what Dr. John Kelly calls other smartnesses. They possess technical and manual aptitudes and abilities which are important and necessary for modern life. The new Strategy for Educational Excellence in Northern Ireland, Transform Ed NI, launched by the Minister in May this year, while setting many important goals, was virtually silent on the crucial area of vocational skills. Too often, pupils, usually young men, have mentally checked out of education long before they're old enough to leave school. They see it as irrelevant or too difficult for them. We must introduce these subjects earlier, give them the priority, importance, and respect they deserve, and in so doing, give our young people who are vocationally gifted the confidence and self-esteem to develop their skills, moving into apprenticeships and training posts that lead to employment that gives purpose, a sense of fulfillment, and good remuneration. Anyone who's tried to engage a builder or tradesman knows how badly we need to increase the workforce with these vital skills. So in order to tackle disadvantage, economic inactivity, and the perception of many within loyalist communities that they've been ignored or forgotten about, we need to demonstrate that we take their concerns seriously, as Councillor Pete Ray said. We need to show them that we are actively addressing their problems, such as the ones that I've highlighted: mental health, addictions, educational failure, unemployment. If we do this, we will reduce alienation, bring about social and economic levelling up, demonstrate our relevance as a political party, and set individuals in Northern Ireland as a whole on a course for stability, economic success, and social and cultural enrichment. Conference, this is what politics should be about, and this is what we as a party are committed to. Conference, thank you.